are the champion, the one that holds the line and finishes the mission. Everything that you want is within your grasp. You wake up in the morning ready to dominate the day, and every step taken is with purpose and integrity, because you were not put on this planet to live a mediocre existence. You are here to conquer and make the biggest impact possible, not only for yourself, but for your family and for your tribe. This world is a battlefield, and we will be victorious. This is the Norse Mentality.
What's up, guys? I hope that you are having a glorious day. My name is Andy Lewis, and with me here is Cody Whitley. And this whole podcast that you're currently listening to is designed to help you reach your true potential and climb to the highest peaks of success. And on every episode, me and Cody discuss different topics. We share opinions and perspectives, and we give tools that have allowed us to get to where we are at currently in life. Now, usually the things that we discuss are either things that we are dealing with and we bring them to the table, or they're things that we have had to overcome in the past, and we share this stuff hoping that it might help you as well. But here lately, we've been taking a different approach, and we've been diving into the Hávamál, which is a collection of Old Norse poems, and it can pretty much be referred to as a roadmap into how to be a good individual, how to live life to its fullest, and what you should focus on throughout your life and not be misguided by things that are not serving you. And one of the reoccurring themes in the Hávamál is the importance of becoming self-sufficient, self-reliant. Now, we all know that we should be self-sufficient. No one wants to be dependent on anyone else or anything, at least not on a conscious level. But because of the day of age that we live in, it is very difficult to become self-reliant. We have everything that we could possibly need at our fingertips. Either if it's technology, other people, we just live in a world of abundance. But this abundance and these technological advances and stuff like that have made us very weak. And that's what happens when you start giving your power to other things and other people, these external factors. You lose your internal strength because you are reliant on them. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, the first thing and the first reason of why we should really make a conscious effort every day to become more self-reliant is because it allows you to take responsibility for your life. Whatever you want to achieve in this life that you've been given with your time here on earth is up to you to do. It is not anyone else's responsibility, and you can't rely on other people to do it for you, nor should you, because they're living their own life. To expect someone to give you everything and you not have to do it for yourself is very selfish. They're focused on living their life to the best of their ability, and we need to be doing the same. But nowadays, people have what we call a victim mindset. And this victim mindset makes them believe that everything is everyone else's fault. They don't take responsibility for their own life. Life is happening to them instead of for them. So that's the first thing that I want to discuss on this and the importance of it.
Imagine how different this place would be if every able-bodied human, mentally, physically, and emotionally, took responsibility for their life. They stopped blaming others for their shortcomings. They stopped relying on other people to, give them experiences or be able to help them out all the time. Like this world would be a completely different place. We wouldn't be dealing with all of the pointless shit that we currently are dealing with.
Something that I keep thinking about as well in regards to that is we are so reliant on other people for our happiness, for love, and these emotions that we have control of ourselves, but we think it's someone else's responsibility to make us happy. And we think it's someone else's responsibility to give us love. And we think it's someone else's responsibility to bring joy into our life. These are all things that we can do on our own. And if you are reliant on someone else to bring you these things, you're in for a rude awakening one day. Because what if that person's no longer around, which one day they won't be? Either you're going to die or they're going to die. We'll use the case of a partner, for example. You should love your partner. You should give them as much love as possible. Same with your friends, your children. pretty much everyone around you. Unless they're just a shitty individual that has done you wrong, you should love everyone. Why not? What's the worst case scenario there? But that doesn't mean that you also can't love yourself, because if you love yourself, you can love other people unconditionally. I don't need anything from you. I just enjoy you as an individual. I don't have to take anything from you in order for me to survive and be happy. Because like I said, one day that person is not going to be there. And if you've relied on them for your happiness, well, what's the opposite of that? You're going to be fucking miserable. Do you really want that for yourself?
And I mean, if, that person leaves, dies, whatever, it leaves from your life, that's a good way to put it in any kind of aspect. You're going to start looking for whatever you're relying on that person for in other people. Because you've been so used to that, say it's your partner of 40 years. Like you've had that person for 40 years and you've relied on that person for a lot of things the majority of that time. When that person leaves, in whatever capacity that is, because you haven't built it yourself, you're going to start looking for that in someone else almost immediately because you're going to be crumbling.
It makes you needy. No one wants to be around a needy person.
It makes you a burden.
It makes you a burden. So those are already a lot of different examples of why we should take responsibility for our own life, but not just in regards to external factors like work, working out, finances, whatever it is. We also need to do it on an internal level, on a spiritual level. I don't need anything from you. I enjoy your company. I value our time together. I love you as an individual, but I don't need anything from you. And because you don't need anything from this individual at all, you can just have a good relationship with them. There is no like underlying subconscious attraction to each other. I only love you. I only want to be around you if you have something to give me. That's a really shitty way to look at other people, because then you also start manipulating them as well in order to get what you want when it's not necessary.
It's parasitic.
You can have all this stuff for yourself without the cancerous side effects that come with not being able to be self-reliant. So that's number one. Take responsibility for your life. The second is it allows you to be resourceful and adaptable. Life is always changing. That's a fact. And the more that you are pursuing life to its fullest, the more chances you are taking, the more risks, the more that you are really just trying to make something of yourself and bring ideas into creation, you're going to hit obstacles. You're going to be on this direction. All of a sudden, life's going to completely fucking knock you around and send you on this other way. If you are not self-reliant, you are not going to be able to pivot. Being able to pivot is one of the best things that we can learn how to do. And the only way that we can do it is through repetition, by putting ourselves in these situations that force us to adapt. I had to learn it with business because business is always ups and downs. We're currently dealing with it right now with this upcoming clothing release. We're dealing with all kinds of bullshit that shouldn't even be there, but it is. And we're not allowing it to cripple us. We're just adapting and continuing to move forward. We can't do that if we are not self-sufficient, if we are relying on outside factors. Okay, well, I need this person to do this, and if they're not here to do this, then I'm just completely helpless. I don't know what to do. Whereas if you have the ability to pivot and go in the other direction if needed, cool. You can just keep moving forward. And that's really what we need to be doing at all times, continuing to move forward, because nothing in this universe stops. Nothing in nature stops. Everything is in constant motion. We also need to be in constant motion, either if it's with self-improvement, with our job, whatever it is, we always need to be moving forward. And if we're relying on other people, we're not going to be able to do that, because we're not going to be able to pivot whenever we have to, which is something that's going to happen.
Yeah, the ability to adapt and be fluid through life is one of the major things you need to be. Because like you said, you are going to get knocked around and you are going to get, thrown off your course. Well, just knowing that's coming and being like, all right, well, this is my situation. Like, I need to adapt to it and fix it before it just cripples me. And speaking on resourceful, we're not, I think when we mention that, a lot of people go to something physical or like financial, like, oh, I need to be like financially resourceful, or I need to have, something physical to give. All that means to me is providing value.
Yeah.
Whatever value you can provide, especially when it comes to, basic survival needs or basic like human interaction. Those are resources, even though they're not something you can hold in your hand and they're not physical. Like, those are very, very important resources that you need to know how to use and when to use to navigate, your social interactions, your business interactions, and your interactions within your friend group.
When it comes to dealing with other people, 100%, what are you able to bring to the table in order to help everyone else around you? If there is a situation where you and your tribe, your community, your surroundings, whatever you want to call it, you guys are met with some obstacle. Okay, how are we going to get through this? The more self-reliant that you are, the stronger you are going to be able to lead the way for those around you. The more resources you have available is like, hey guys, I know what to do here. I can help us. And the more people that you have in your group that are self-reliant, when you guys come together to do this, you are unstoppable. That's why you should only be surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals that also understand the importance of being self-reliant and self-sufficient. Now, we just discussed the external aspect of it as far as dealing with other people. Now, let's talk about the internal side of it. Being able to pivot mentally and emotionally when needed. If you are not someone that can handle their emotions, they don't know their triggers, they have zero control over their mind and all these other things, you will be absolutely ruined when things don't go how you thought they were going to. And they won't. You're always going to be thrown curveballs, and you need to be able to know how to avoid them and continuing to go forward. Now, when I said emotional, a good example would be if you wake up one day and you're just pissed off or depressed even. Depressed is even worse because when you wake up depressed, you don't want to get out of bed. And if you are not able to detach yourself from your emotions, you're going to lay in that bed and not a damn thing is going to get done that day. But if you have learned over time how to separate yourself from these things, you can still get up and continue moving forward. You can still get up and get the work done that needs to get done for yourself and also your family. There's also the mental side of it. When we are not able to control our thoughts, and those thoughts become a repeating soundtrack of just negativity, either if it's towards ourselves or the world around us. If we don't have the tools in place and we haven't put in the repetition to stop that from happening, it will consume us. We won't be able to make strategic moves that will move us in the right direction if needed, because we are clouded by all this bullshit going on up there. And that's why I am such a big component of meditation. It's not necessarily because meditation calms me down, which I guess it does. It's because meditation allows me to be better on a day-to-day basis. It allows me to get control over my mind that once upon a time never, ever shut up. Sometimes it was talking about good shit. A lot of times, though, it was completely useless. And I took everything at face value. Oh, I'm thinking this, so this must be true. I've ruined relationships over that. I've made poor decisions because of that, because I just listened to my thoughts. And every time you listen to those thoughts, you're giving it energy. It just continues to build and build and build. You need to know how to stop it in its tracks. That way, if you are on this journey and an obstacle does come up, okay, cool. I need to recenter myself, which means shutting up your mind, controlling your emotions, and figure out what is the next strategic move that I can make that will have the best results possible.
The amount of clarity gained from that will help you in whatever situation you're faced with. You know, I'm going back to like my nursing days. The most intense situation you could have was like a patient coding. You code blue, your patient's heart stopped, like they're dead, they're dying.
Yeah.
when you bring emotion and heavy like feeling into that situation, people start getting very frazzled very quickly. And, you know, like you said, with emotion, if you act on every emotion that you have, there's no calmness, there's no inner clarity, there's no centering of yourself. The best thing you can do in that situation is remain calm, because your ability to think when you have clarity and you are calm is drastically better than when you're just acting on every emotion, especially in that situation when, you know, our main purpose is to try to save this person's life. Well, if I'm scrambled, if I'm like hyperventilating, if I'm just trying to control everything in that moment, the outcome is way worse.
There's also two different aspects of that. You're affecting those around you. Instead of remaining calm and giving off that calm energy that everyone else will kind of read and be like, okay, cool, Cody's got this. Cody's not freaking out. That means I don't have to either. Compared to if you were freaking out, everyone around you starts getting very frazzled. They start becoming very anxious. And all of a sudden, the whole room is freaking out over something that probably isn't worth freaking out about. No one's making a good decision. There's also the internal part where if we need to make a strategic move in order to get past something, we need to bring ourselves to the present moment in order to figure out what the best move moving forward is. We can't do that if we're just constantly thinking about something that happened in the past or some shit that is completely irrelevant to our current situation. This is why getting control of that internal state is so important, but then also making sure that you can bring that to the external world for those around you. That's a resource, like you were saying earlier. Another reason that we need to become self-reliant, though, is because it provides us with freedom. And what I mean by freedom is it allows you to become the person that you want to be, regardless of outside influences. So a lot of times people grow up and they're just following the path that society told them that they need to follow, that their parents told them that they need to, that their teachers told them, whatever it is. Whenever you become self-reliant and independent, you are able to decide who you want to be and what kind of life you want to create for yourself. And that is the ultimate form of freedom. That is what we should all be pursuing, because that is the only way that we can reach our true potential and climb to the highest peaks of success. So we need to become self-reliant and self-sufficient if we want to be free. And why wouldn't we want to be free? I think that's every individual's main goal in life, or that's their deepest desire. They just want to be free. We kind of have it here in the States. It's getting a little bit less, but like we're still a fairly free country. But then you have places like North Korea where those individuals have zero freedom over their life. And I can guarantee you every night they're laying in bed, if they're not completely brainwashed, there's like, I just want to be free. At the end of the day, that's all we want, is to have freedom over our own lives, which means separating ourselves from outside influences, taking that time to figure out who we are and what we want to pursue, and then go after it.
The independence thing is huge here. I know people, and I know that you have experienced this as well, people that need someone to experience life with, or need someone for them to take action. I personally have known people that need someone they need a workout partner. They're not going to the gym without another person there because they just can't do it. The amount of time that you lose, the lack of experiences that you're able to live through if you're relying on someone else to push you in that direction are crippling, man.
I've heard it with traveling and stuff too, or hiking, camping, whatever it is. Like, I really wanted to go do this, but I didn't have anyone to go with. Why do you need someone to go with? Well, it's probably because they're scared to be alone with themselves. They don't want to deal with that. So they would rather just remain at home and distracted. But you're missing out on something that every part of you wants. Something inside you is like, I want to travel. I want to go to this country. I want to go hiking. I want to see the world. I want to explore. And you won't do it because no one wants to go with you. It's fear. You're living out of a place of fear. And if you're living out of a place of fear, you are not free. How do we push past that though? We do it by forcing ourselves to go do the things that we're scared of. As long as it's not going to kill you, which is subjective, I guess, because a lot of times people will convince themselves like, well, what if this happens? That is very worst case scenario. It's probably not going to fucking happen. You're not going to fall off a mountain hiking if you're not even hiking on the damn mountain. You know what I mean? Like, or riding in an airplane. I understand people are scared of that, and I understand why. But then go look at the risks involved. How often is there a plane crash? How often is there a car accident? You still drive in a car, but you won't go on a plane.
One of my things with my mom, because, I mean, you know this, I hike a lot, you hike a lot. At the beginning, man, like, my mom was convinced that I was going to get eaten by a bear on every hike I went on. Like, as soon as the sun goes down, she would try to call me. And you know this from being around me. Like, I intentionally hike in the dark.
Yeah.
Like, I will stay out. I like watching the moon rise. I like watching the stars come out. Every hike I went on, I was going to get eaten by a bear. When the reality is, I've never seen a fucking bear hiking, man. I've never seen bear shit, bear tracks, a cub, a black bear, anything in North Carolina.
The black bear is more scared of you than any.
And I have spent a considerable amount of time in black bear territory.
Yeah. I saw one once. We were hiking, and I heard something up on the mountain. I was like in between two different mountains on the trail. And I heard something. I looked up and I made eye contact with this thing. And it looked at me and I looked at it. And I immediately just looked forward and it looked the other way. And we just kept going in our opposite directions. That's the reality of encountering a black bear. Now, if you're up in Alaska or something like that, you get in touch with a grizzly, you're probably going to get fucked up. But that's just a risk that you need to take. It's also being prepared. You have a gun with you whenever you go camping.
Normally for people, not animals.
But still.
It's with me.
Right. Either way, we can't allow our fear of failure in the eyes of our parents, fear of dying, fear of anything for that matter, to get in our way of becoming who we need to be and experiencing life to its fullest. And the more that you focus on becoming self-reliant, like the Hávamál stresses over and over again, the more freedom you're going to have. Hey guys, if you're anything like me, you're balls to the wall from the time you wake up until you go to bed. And at some point in the day, you're going to start losing energy and motivation. That's why I always take a scoop of focus around noon. It helps me get dialed back in, and it's pretty much coffee on steroids. If you want to grab a container for yourself, go to norsefitness.co and use the code podcast15 to save 15% on focus today.
One of the biggest positives that I've seen come from this, it took a while for me to build up my confidence in hiking. It took me a while to get to like the physical conditioning level to be able to hike longer mileage with more weight on my back. But because I did that, some of the best experiences that I've had hiking was taking people that had never hiked before and made them feel comfortable and taught them things so they could be able to experience hiking and being out in nature the same way I do.
Almost every time someone comes to visit us here at Norse, we always take a day to go hiking. And each time, it's life-changing for them. We hear 99% of the time. And the only people that don't say are people that already do it. Like Isaac.
Consistently.
Yeah, like whenever Isaac was visiting, Isaac is more in nature than we are. Like he knows how to survive in the bush of Canada. But the majority of the time, it's people that live in the city. They don't have the accessibility as we do to
mountains,
nature, to mountains and stuff like that. So we take them on these things, and it's life-changing for them. And it's because they did something that they weren't doing before. And because of that, they experienced a sense of freedom that they've never experienced before. And that's what it's all about. So we need to focus on becoming self-reliant for that reason, to be free. Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that we all want. We want to be free, we want to be happy, and we want to make something of ourselves. The only way that happens is if we get out of our own way and we allow it to take place. Now, in regards to that, pushing past your fears and stuff like that, becoming self-sufficient is also going to build resilience. If we want to thrive in this world, we have to build resilience, either that's physical or mental, spiritual, whatever it is. We need to be putting in the reps to become more resilient. And the only way we can do that is by taking control of our life, pursuing what we want to pursue, regardless of other people's interaction with it. If someone is along for the journey, cool, bring them along. But that should never stop us. If there's a huge obstacle that we need to overcome and we don't have anyone behind us, fuck it. We're going over it. Nothing is stopping me. That's the kind of mindset that we have to have with this. And we can cultivate that over time. We can cultivate the mindset of no matter what obstacle I am faced with, regardless if I have any support or not, I'm going to overcome this motherfucker any way possible. I will burn all the ships. I will get to the other side because I am capable of doing so. That's step number one. Actually believing that in yourself. And then it's going out there and doing it over and over again. Each time you do it, you will build confidence in yourself. Well, what happens when you build confidence in yourself? You're becoming more self-sufficient. You don't need other people. You don't need other things. You only need yourself. But that's what this leads to. Every day, when we just purposely put ourselves in a position where we have to do stuff for ourselves, we are building resilience.
I think when resilience comes up in conversation, that people mainly just think of physical. Like, yeah, I'm training to build up my physical resilience. I'm training to be able to do something. Sometimes the situations and obstacles you're presented with do not need a physical overcoming. It could be an emotional or mental thing. So there are opportunities, and this was a big switch for me. There are opportunities other than physical obstacles to work on your mental and emotional resilience.
For me, the physical aspect has never been an issue.
It's like, easy. Yeah, it's the easiest part.
The physical part is the easiest. It's the mental and emotional part. That's what really gets you, because you have to separate yourself from that. You have to know that that's even a possibility, and then you have to practice doing it, and that is very hard, and it takes repetition and years of effort every single day to build that emotional and mental resilience, because that's the main thing stopping us in life. It's the main thing that is causing us suffering with our entire existence, is our mental and emotional stability.
Fragility.
Yeah, fragility, for sure. The physical aspect is easy. You just keep fucking going.
Walk a little bit more.
Walk a little bit more. One foot in front of the other.
It's very simple.
When I was hiking Trolltunga, I remember thinking that, because at some point my feet had like 15 blisters on them. I was hiking, I think, 14 hours at this point. It was raining. Like, it just wasn't a good time necessarily. It was a good time, but you know what I mean. And I remember thinking, like, holy shit, my body's exhausted. We just got to keep going. No big deal. And surprisingly, the body just kept going. Imagine that, right? Like, that's what we mean by building physical resilience does not make you a bad fucking ass. Bad fucking ass. But that's the thing, is people think that. They think that because they're in great shape, or because they can run 10 miles or even fighting or whatever it is, or the worst one is, I lift weights, so that makes me a badass. Everyone can do that. Congratulations, you're consistent with it. You have discipline. You can pat yourself on the back for that. But as far as like pushing through, you just got to keep going. But it's getting control of your mind and your emotions and being able to deal with that, especially people that have experienced a very traumatic childhood, or they're dealing with a very traumatic experience in the present moment. Being able to keep some sanity in those moments is the hardest thing. I know it's because I have lost it. I have completely lost it emotionally and mentally. And that's a very bad place to be. But with repetition and becoming self-reliant and building this resilience in yourself, it's like, okay, cool. No matter what I deal with physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I'm going to get through it.
The incentive to work on your resilience in all planes that we're discussing, physical, mental, and emotional, if you take each opportunity to work on those things, the experiences that you have in life that are going to test those, because you will. There will be times in your life where those things get tested. The more you work on them in the beginning, it's very difficult, and I've experienced this. It's very hard to start out and like really come to terms with this is where you're falling short and taking responsibility for yourself. But the more you work on being an all-around resilient person, the easier it is to understand and overcome the obstacles that are going to be presented to you in the future.
And that's why putting in the reps every single day, no matter what it is, will allow you to get there. We're all weak in some aspect, and there's always someone stronger than us, and it's almost subjective to are you actually weak or not. But either way, you are here right now. You're at the bottom. Okay, cool. You have all this room up here that you can grow. Get started. How do we do that though? If it's physical, that's very obvious. Working out, running, martial arts, hiking. These are all things that build physical resilience. Pushing yourself one more rep, one more step, whatever it is. If it's mental, it's kind of the same thing. When you're pushing yourself physically, you're also having to push yourself mentally to not give up.
If you're going to failure.
If you are going
if you're
to
really
failure.
pushing yourself and going to failure.
But what
yes.
you realize each time that you go to failure is that you know deep down that you could have done a little bit more. And that raises the ceiling though. We all have this self-limiting ceiling on us. And each time we put in one more rep and we go one step further, we're raising that ceiling of possibility of what we can do in the future. And that's something to keep in mind in every single moment, is that we can do that. Now, another way to push yourself mentally and to build resilience is through meditation. That's why most people don't do it. They sit down and for 5 minutes and they can't sit with their eyes closed for 5 minutes. Meditation is literally the art of doing nothing. Just sitting there. You don't have to do anything. Now, if you want to focus on your breath and stuff like that, cool. If you want to listen to a guided meditation, sure. I don't recommend it. I say just sit there. Just practice sitting there with your eyes closed without losing your shit. Over time, it gets easier and easier. Well, what are we doing there? We're building mental resilience, but it's not sexy, right? Like pushing yourself on a hard hike. That's something to talk about. Telling someone that you just sat there with your eyes closed for 20 minutes alone with your thoughts, it's not very exciting, but it's harder. It really is. And that's why a lot of people work out, but not a lot of people meditate. It's also doing shit that you know that needs to get done and overcoming procrastination. So if you know that you need to work on a project and you catch yourself procrastinating, it's just diving into the work itself, pushing past procrastination, which is the enemy, and diving into it. If you know that you need to go to the gym, it's going into the gym. That's mental. It's overcoming that mental barrier of procrastination, which is just a habit. That over time, each time that you overcome procrastination or any negative habit for that matter, you are becoming stronger, you're becoming more resilient, and you're eliminating that habit from your life. A lot of people have this idea that how they are right now is how they're always going to be. And that's not true, because you were different when you were 10 years old, when you're 20 years old, when you're 25, 30. You're always changing. Allow yourself to change. Don't feed yourself the self-limiting concept that you're always going to be the exact same. That's complete bullshit. The only reason you are is because you're forcing yourself to be. But when we start eliminating bad habits by reinforcing them with a positive one, that takes mental resilience, but it gets easier and easier. It's just like the first time that you start trying to follow a diet. You might last 2 weeks and then you fall off course, but then you get back on the horse and you hit 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Then you're doing a 2-month diet. Then you're doing 3 months. You're building discipline. You're starting to see a transformation in your body. You're more mentally sharp.
You feel better.
You feel better, right? But you can't do that unless you are resilient mentally. Now, as far as the emotional aspect goes, that's something that you're going to have to face on a day-to-day basis. You might wake up feeling like complete shit. And that's what I was referring to when I said that if you do wake up feeling depressed or whatever it is, forcing yourself to get out of bed and start stacking victories is how you build resilience emotionally. Because you are not your emotions. It's just an emotion. It's here 1 second and then it's gone. Why should we put any significance and importance on something that is fleeting? We could feel a certain way, and all it takes is one little thing to snap us out of it, and then we forgot that we were even feeling that way. But people become obsessed with it. I'm not happy. Who gives a shit? Just start doing stuff. Start stacking victories. That's how you pull yourself out of depression. You start improving your confidence and self-worth when you start taking action. The reason that you're depressed right now is because you feel sorry about yourself. Or you feel sorry about someone else. You feel sorry about a situation in life and you wish it was different. It's not different. This is how life is. You can't decide what happens, but what you can decide is what you do on a day-to-day basis. Are you going to lay around and feel sorry for yourself, or are you going to get up and start taking action and start becoming emotionally resilient, where you no longer allow your emotions to cripple you? You get up and you start taking action. Now, the next thing that being self-sufficient does is it allows us to connect more with the natural world. We are so disconnected from nature. We don't understand how the world truly works. And what I mean by that is when you look at nature and you actually observe it and you observe all the animals and even the weather and all this different shit, it's unforgiving. It doesn't give a fuck about you.
It's violent.
It's violent. And that's what I don't understand about the whole woohoo community. I consider myself a pretty spiritual person nowadays.
Absolutely.
For sure. But I also recognize the fact of the matter that this world is violent. Everything about it is violent, meaning you need to be able to be violent. How are you able to tap into that side of yourself, that primitive side? Is by becoming self-reliant. Say you are put in a situation, either if it's we'll say a hurricane. I grew up in Florida, so a hurricane was the first thing that popped into my head, right? But say a hurricane hits, like a category 5, and it fucks shit up. You don't have power, you don't have food, you don't have water. No one's coming to save you. You're trapped. But then all of a sudden, looters start to come. That happens too. Look at what happened during Hurricane Katrina, right? Is that what it was? Hurricane Katrina down in New Orleans?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look what happened there. There were people staying on top of their roofs with AK-47s. People were getting raped and kidnapped. I hate talking about this, but this is the world that we live in. It's unforgiving. Are you going to allow things to just happen to you without putting up a fight? Nothing else in nature does that. Our ancestors didn't do that. The reason we got to the top of the fucking food chain is because we fought for it. We became self-reliant, independent. We didn't need anything else. We had our tribe, and if we didn't have our tribe, we fought to survive. That's how the world works.
We have very unfortunately forgotten the fragility of the system that we've built. It doesn't take much to knock out a power grid. It doesn't take much to isolate people. Any kind of natural disaster, solar flares wiping out fucking power grids and shit. Like, it really doesn't take much to alter the everyday system that we live in.
It doesn't take much, and when it happens, which it will.
It always does. It has since the beginning of time.
What are you going to do? Are you going to just lay down and die? Or are you going to get up and fight? You can't do that unless you are self-sufficient. If you have to rely on anyone or anything in order to survive, you are weak. Now, let me kind of emphasize what I mean by that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't ask for help. Asking for help is a strength if it's necessary. But if you can do it on your own, just do it on your own. But that's why we have our friends, our partners, and those people want to help us. But at the same time, those people are dealing with their own shit. If you can do it on your own, you need to. But also, don't be afraid to ask for help, because that is something that I had to overcome for myself. And Norse wouldn't be where it's at today if I did not learn how to do that. At one point, I thought that I could run this company and run a gym and be a single dad all by myself. And nothing was happening. I was just spinning in the same place.
Survival mode.
I was in survival mode, right? But I wasn't moving forward. We are social creatures. Another reason that we are at the top of the food chain, same with wolves, is because we know how to work in a pack. That's what allows us to thrive. Now, in order to work in a pack, you need to be able to bring something to the table, and everyone else needs to as well. And it's okay to ask for help if needed. It's okay to go out with someone else and get what you want out of life, to work together. That doesn't make you weak. But at the same time, don't allow that to be a crutch. Become as self-sufficient as possible. That way you can actually help those around you instead of just being a victim and a burden. That is the worst thing that we could possibly be, is a burden to those around us. Now, obviously there's exceptions for that.
We're talking about physically abled, mentally abled, emotionally abled bodies.
Right.
Here.
If you have a health issue and you're bedridden, someone needs to step up.
If you're old, if you're a child, like that's just the natural process of human life.
And that's okay. That's okay. But if you're able, you need to be self-sufficient. That way you can lend a hand to other people. That way when it's your turn, because you will be old one day, you will probably get sick. You might get into a car accident. Something might happen where you are unable to take care of yourself. And because you were self-sufficient the majority of your life and you helped other people, that's going to come back around to you. But when that happens, you don't need to beat yourself up about it. You don't need to consider yourself weak or anything like that. This is just how the world works. As infants, as children, we're reliant on our parents and those around us.
We're a burden.
We're a burden. We really are, in the best way possible.
Yeah.
My life would be very unfulfilling if it wasn't for my daughter. Taking care of her is the best thing to ever happen to me.
Nothing replaces that fulfillment. And
it doesn't.
I can speak on that, from my healthcare background. It's almost irreplaceable helping someone when they absolutely cannot help themselves.
And that's our purpose. Our purpose here on earth, every single person that has ever existed, their purpose and where they will find the most fulfillment in life is by helping those around them. The more self-reliant you are, the more self-sufficient you are, the more you are able to help other people. And that's when you actually feel like your life has meaning. It's not by making a bunch of money. It's not by getting in the best shape ever. Should we do these things? Absolutely. Why not? But are you getting in great shape? That way you can be there for your family for as long as possible. Are you making a bunch of money? That way you can give to charity to help out those around you when they need it. To take care of your parents that when they're old. That's one of my main motivators. When my dad's 80, 90 years old, I don't want him to have to worry about a single thing. I got you, Cliff. Don't worry about it. You took care of me. You stepped up when you were 18. I wouldn't be where I'm at today without you. It's my turn. The reason that I want to have financial abundance is so I can take care of those around me. That is the most important thing. So I'm not saying we shouldn't be doing that. But at the end of the day, why are we doing it? And the main reason is to become self-sufficient. That way we can help those around us. And when it's our turn for someone to take care of us, we have enough karma in the goodwill account that no problem, it's going to be there. Now, before we end this episode, let's just kind of talk about what we can do on a daily basis to become self-sufficient, self-reliant. This entire 30, 40 minutes has been talking about why we need to. I think that's pretty clear now. But how do we do it? The first thing is to set clear goals. We have harped on this on pretty much every episode, but if you want to get anywhere in life, you need to have goals set into place because that goal is the endpoint that you're working towards. And then once you get there, you can set another endpoint, but it's the destination, right? Like we have a destination that we're currently working towards that we want to get to eventually. When you do set this goal, make sure that it has a strong why. That's that motivator that's going to keep you going when times get tough. Also, write it down every single morning. That way it's top of mind. And as you're moving throughout the day, you're going to be working towards it. And you're also not going to give up on it because every day you're writing it down. And even if you haven't worked towards this goal in a couple of weeks, it's like, shit, I need to get back on it. You're reminding yourself of it. The next thing is to develop self-discipline. Well, we develop self-discipline as we're working towards a goal. Okay, I want to lose 30 pounds. Well, how do I lose 30 pounds? I need to hit the gym. I need to be active. I need to eat healthy. I need to be conscious of what I'm putting into my body. I need to make sure that I'm getting enough rest. All of these things that we often neglect. When we make it a conscious effort every single day to do these things, regardless if we want to or not, regardless if it makes us feel good or not, we're building self-discipline. Self-discipline is the one thing that will get you the furthest in life because most people don't have it nowadays. And if you can develop discipline, which is obtained through repetition when working towards a goal, you're going to get there. And along the way, you're also going to become more self-reliant and self-sufficient. The next thing would be continuously learning and growing. The more that we learn, the more we are able to take care of ourselves. Reading books, listening to podcasts, talking to other people, studying, whatever it is, whatever you are lacking in right now, as far as knowledge goes, whatever is holding you back the most, start learning how you can overcome that by reading books, taking courses, whatever you need to do.
I just bought 3 books. We were talking about this earlier. One of the biggest things that hit me when I did that was I spent $35 on 3 books. Okay. But the return investment on that $35 is priceless. From the knowledge that I gain and the value that I can provide to other people from reading.
An average book now is $9 to $12. Books that will absolutely change your life. And I know which books you bought because I told you to.
I bought The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, and then 2 books by Michael Singer.
Yeah, The Surrender Experiment and The Untethered Soul.
Yep.
Which, by the way, guys, we're going to be making a whole podcast about book recommendations soon. So stay on the lookout for that. I know people have been asking for it, but there are 3 right there. Now, the next thing that's going to allow us to become more self-reliant is prioritizing physical and mental well-being. We kind of just touched on this, but it's worth mentioning again. When we prioritize taking care of ourselves physically and mentally, we're not going to be reliant on other people to take care of us for as long as possible. Eventually, time will catch up with you. An accident might happen, but you can avoid that as much as possible for as long as possible by making sure that you're eating the right foods, making sure that you're exercising, taking care of yourself, making sure that you are reading, growing mentally, becoming mentally stronger, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, getting out of your comfort zone. All these things allow you to continue growing physically and mentally. And if we prioritize that on a daily basis, we are self-reliant. We don't need other people. We're no longer a burden. We can help other people instead. And that should be the main motivator. If you need a reason to be self-reliant, it's so you can help those around you instead of them having to help you as much. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Norse Mentality. This podcast is a byproduct of Norse Fitness. We make clothing, fitness accessories, supplements, and other tools to help you reach your true potential. If you're interested in grabbing something for yourself, you can go to norsefitness.co and use the code podcast15 to save 15% on your next order.